Welcome to another episode of Positive Solutions for Life. This is Peggy Meyer. Today's guest is Natalia Nutting. Natalia is known as the storytelling queen because, as someone who's worked with hundreds of entrepreneurs who were pushing opportunities away with long winded speeches and turned them into paid keynote speakers and memorable personal brands, she knows the power that your story can have in your business. Natalia is on a mission to help more entrepreneurs tell better stories so they can make a bigger impact and more money. She helps speakers deliver a killer keynote speech with a powerful voice and a magnetic stage presence. Coming to you from the UK, welcome to the podcast, Natalia.
Oh, hello, my darling Peggy. I'm so happy to be here. Finally, after 2 years.
Yes, yes, yes. I am so excited to have you on. We've met, oh gosh, was it over 4 years ago in an
Yeah.
online course and then I took some of your courses and
Oh, you saved my potatoes, I tell you, because Peggy taught me how to use sticky notes. It might be like so silly for so many people, but yeah, me, the messy artist. And so you were in a very precious corner of my heart with those sticky notes. And then,
yes,
yes, you took my course. I'm, because I'm the ideal client of all of my students,
yes,
then I'm great at helping them tell their story so that they can reach people like me.
yes. And I'm so excited for our conversation. And so can you please tell the listeners just a little bit more about you, your personal journey, and how it has led to where you are today?
Wow. Well, there's a lot. Do you want me to start from when I was born? And
Well, how much time do you have,
how much
Just
time do
take
you
a short
have?
version
Well,
of it.
yeah, that's
I
the
like.
secret to a boring long story. So that's what I learned throughout my life when no one wanted to listen to me because I didn't know how to speak. Either I would just freeze, or I would tell a bunch of unrelated things that branched out, and people wouldn't understand me, so they didn't want to keep on talking to me. And I was quite a lonely child until I learned the power of short stories. And people started to lean in and pay attention to what I had to say. And that gave me so much confidence because I finally felt, oh, people want to listen to me. I got something to say. And that created connection, and it built up into what I'm doing today after
Mhm.
4 decades. That reveals my age. And I look much younger than what I am. I'm so
Yes,
proud of that.
yes.
And I help entrepreneurs, visionaries to tell short stories so that they can connect with their audience, build that connection, and they understand what you want to say and they want to listen
Mhm.
to what you want to say.
Yeah.
And it's we can dive into many life stories that are very entertaining.
Yes,
I mean, like I'd love to talk about everything with you because we're both country girls, you
yes,
know,
yes,
farm girls, country girls, now in the online
exactly.
business. Like, what are the chances being online?
I know, and it's been great. I mean, all of this online stuff has been great to meet so many people from obviously around the world. But,
Wow,
you
yeah.
know, how do you help people tell better
Mm,
stories? Because, even if you're just trying to connect with, friends or, be a little bit more lively in a group, but also the business side. So personally and, professionally, how do you
mm.
help people discover their voice?
Well, a great inspiration for me was my best friend, Caddy. She is Welsh. She is a counselor. And every time I have a problem, I talk to her. Because when I'm in the problem, I'm stressed out and I'm in the middle of the problem. I can't see anything, any solution. And what she does is she tells me a story. And immediately I'm out of my problem and I'm into the imaginary world of the characters. And in the end of the story is showing the solution to the problem. And I'm like, oh, Caddy, actually, with that story, you just solved my problem. And she's like silently laughing at the other side of the phone. That's the power of storytelling.
Mhm.
Because when someone is going through a problem, be it business problem, life problem, whatever you listener do in your expertise, um, they are stressed out and they don't see a solution. So the power of story is in that it doesn't tackle the person and the problem so that you are still immersed in that problem. It takes you away from it
Mhm.
into the imaginary world of another character that is not you. So then you can switch off and relax and find the solution in the storyline of the character. And then suddenly, voila, you find your own solution.
Mhm.
It's a beautiful process. So the way I help my students tell stories for their presentations, for their content creation in social media, for their conversations that they have with their clients or with anyone, is by first understanding the power of storytelling that it has had on them in their lives to connect, solve problems, to follow someone. And then we go through a process, a system to find the right stories. You remember when we did it
Oh,
together?
yeah.
We
Oh, yeah.
started putting,
It
oh
was
my gosh.
I mean, just the number of stories you can come up with. I mean, every scene, like, every experience in our life can be a story.
Yeah, and by the way, everyone listening, Peggy is the best student ever. Like you are incredible. When Peggy was extracting her stories, he was every single day on the Facebook group telling her short stories. And we did something called a 3-2-1, where you
Mhm.
tell a story in 3 minutes, and then you cut it to 2 minutes, and then you cut it to 1 minute. And she
That was
was
so
there
much
every
fun.
day.
That
Yeah,
was
it was
so
so
much
much fun.
fun. It was such a challenge.
Yeah, yeah,
It was such a
yeah.
but it's interesting that you can. I mean, some people just go, we have those people that will just talk and ramble and ramble and you're like, "Come on, like, what is the point?" And I am one of those that like to be, kind of short, succinct, kind of blunt sometimes. And that was a huge challenge is like, tell your story in 3 minutes. And you're like, oh my gosh. And it takes forever. Like, it's not even 3 minutes. Like, okay, then you have to make it 3 minutes. And then I was like, oh crap, now I have to make it 2 minutes. Like,
Yeah,
and then when it gets down to 1 minute, it is very succinct. But
yeah,
it is still, you can tell the same story
yeah,
in that
yeah,
short amount of time and
yeah.
still
And
make an impact.
when you're pressured by time, you have no option but to get to the nitty gritty. Like
Mhm.
this is the shifting moment. This
Yes.
is the point of the story. So these are the stories that you want to have in your pocket
Mhm.
to pull out when you are teaching, when you want to make a point, when you're giving a presentation and you want to show a case study, for example, a testimonial, you tell it in the format of a story that will connect with the people that are in your audience. Or when a friend is going through a problem and they see no way out, it's like, oh, hold on a minute, I got a story. And you
Mhm.
can be short and snappy because sometimes we don't have the attention span. We are in our minds, in our own problem, in our own world. So you have to bring them out with a short, snappy story. There are times for a long story
Yeah.
when all the attention is on you. But if you want to grab people's attention, snap them, you need a short, snappy story.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And you said it'll, like, keep them in your back pocket, and I know one of the other things that you taught was, like, story cards and, like,
Mm,
writing it like, the note cards, kinda reminds me of the sticky notes that I was, telling you,
yeah.
but the note cards, and then you just write just, like, highlights on it. You can even write your one-minute story on them to, like, pull up because there's so many different times where it's like, somebody does come with you, to you with an issue, and you're like, "Oh, yeah, I have a story." But if you had it right there, like, you could instead of, like, mumble through it, it's kinda like telling a joke and, like, forgetting the punchline.
Yeah.
You have it there,
I do that all the time. Like, by the way, guys, I'm a terrible storyteller, but I'm a great coach. That's funny. Oh my gosh. Well, and yeah, so the story cards help people like me and that are recovering introverts, and some people will like argue with me with that, like ambivert, but someone that is that had some sort of speaking trauma. uh, it helps you have something physical there in front of you that gives you confidence and gives you the prompt.
Mhm.
So the story cards have a few bullet points with the sequence of action of the story. And then on the other side, you remember, is the punchline, so
Yeah.
that you don't remember the punchline of your joke or your story. Like I would always used to do that. I'm telling a story and then oh, why did I tell you this story? And then, oh, people will like just turn around and leave me alone, and I would be there all on my own. And yeah, I want to save you those horrible times.
Yes. 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 You've worked with a lot of entrepreneurs. Can you share a few stories of, people that you've worked with that have, really turned their, you know, speeches around?
Yes, I can.
Oh,
The
good.
first person that comes to my mind is dear Dominique.
Oh gosh,
And
I remember him in
oh,
class.
you remember him? And you were nervous with him. It's like, Dominique, don't you get it?
Yeah,
It's like,
I know.
come
I
on,
was
do
like, and he
it.
got it. He got it.
And finally he got it. So, gosh, Peggy. Okay, so Dominique came to me 2022. He was in the same class of Captivate, my program, with Peggy.
Mhm.
Everyone becomes great
Yes.
friends in
Yes.
storytelling class. And so at that time, Dominique was just recovering from cancer, and his health was very, very weak. And his business was almost finished, almost bankrupt. And he wanted to restart his business, which was coaching dental office owners to create a successful business. He teaches marketing and business strategies. He is extraordinary, but he didn't know how to reach his audience, how to create a message that would connect with his clients in this new era of online business,
Mhm. Yeah.
connecting with people online. And so with Dominique, we first worked on his origin story and how he recovered from cancer. And as we were doing the process, I take him through the process of scene by scene of his story and what he did to move forward, what he did to overcome this and that. And as we moved scene by scene through his story, we unlocked his three main pillars of transformation. And there he was. At that moment, he was like, okay, I've got this cancer story. I really want to help cancer survivors. And I said, Dominique, tell this story to the people you want to help now, business wise. And he said, but Natalia, what does my origin story about cancer have to do with my business related to helping dental business owners create more money? It's got nothing to do.
Mhm.
I lean in and I say, it's got everything to do. Just tell it. Faithful student, he trusted his mentor. He got on the phone with this prospect, this lady that wanted to check out what was Dominique all about, dental business owner from Germany. And they're on the phone. And he says, let me tell you a story. And he tells this woman his story. And her phone is trembling. And she says, Dominique, you are the most expensive business coach I have ever heard of. But I just have to work with you because of your story. You went straight into my heart.
Mhm.
And at that moment, he signed the contract, 20,000 euros in that phone call after telling the story. And now Dominique is making 60,000 euro months in his business. And he's a paid keynote speaker. He's now delivering seminars around the world. His business is thriving, all because of this origin story that makes people connect with him. If you survived that, then
Mhm.
I can do anything. And what is wonderful about this process is that your own origin story reveals the process of transformation that your clients are going to go through, and your story acts as a metaphor for that transformation.
Mhm.
He was not seeing that metaphor at that time.
Mhm.
Surviving cancer as a metaphor of surviving a broken business and making it thrive. He's unstoppable. He's completely clean of cancer now. And
Mhm.
so there's a magic to his madness of how he overcome that. And we created a process for his business, and boom,
Oh,
it converts like hot
oh,
cross
yes.
buns or
Oh, yes.
potatoes,
Yes.
whatever you eat in the US.
I know, and it was I mean, I just remember being in class, and it's just like, he's not seeing it, it's not it's just but sometimes it takes people a long time to,
Yeah.
like, make those because we are in kind of a narrow focus, and we don't see how it can, help somebody else, but in your point before, it's like, we gotta take people to a story to get them
Mm,
out of themselves to be able to and then they can make the connections of solving the problem, you know, through that story. So it's just amazing process and really how empowering it is, you know, in Dominique just, embracing his story and being able to
mm.
translate that to business and and he didn't see it at first, but he's totally embracing it now. Like he's just knocking it out of the park. Yeah.
Knocking it out of the park. I'm so proud. And I become best friends with my students because I get so immersed in their stories that
Mhm.
I know them better than they know themselves,
Yeah, and you're in
which
an
is so
objective
beautiful.
third party as we're living our own story. We don't always see the the
Yeah.
connections and, other things that it can present to other people, but it's great because you get really attached to people when they have stories that are just personal and we can relate to them. And that really just helps anybody in, connecting with others. And that's really what we want to do.
Yeah. And then there's the PowerPoint syndrome.
Yeah. Yes.
Also called death by PowerPoint. I remember that we did that with you. You have a fantastic PowerPoint presentation for your farm business, and it's like, how can we make this more fun?
Yeah.
Where can we add the stories? How was that process for you?
Oh, that was it's so interesting again, I have, like, 2 brains, we all
Yeah.
do, but it was just like, is you get stuck in the very logical and the sequential and, and it has to be this and it feels very harsh. I don't know if for lack of a better word. I mean, but it does, and it's just like, oh, and it is death by PowerPoint. I've been put to death by PowerPoint by other people for a lot of times. It's like, okay, I don't want to do that. Okay. But it's just like, oh, but when you do tell the little snippets of the stories, whether it's a 1-minute story, a 2-minute story, or just
Mm,
real briefly,
mm,
what really happens is that you invoke the emotion and people connect emotionally. People
mm,
buy emotionally. I mean, come on, if we're feeling a certain way, we just go out and whether you feel crappy, you buy something to make you feel good, or just on a whim, it's like, why did you buy that? I don't know. I just, we buy emotionally. So we have to connect with
mm.
our audience and emotionally. We have to connect with our customers. We have to connect with one another, whoever. We're selling stuff to our family. Yeah. We have to
Well,
sell
you
ourselves.
are with all the kids
Well,
you
yeah,
have.
with
Oh
all
my
kids, I mean,
goodness.
you gotta sell that, like, if you're feeding your kids or your family or whatever, you have to sell them that this food is good, like, you did something great, that this is I mean, but
Yes.
we're selling all the time. So we need
Yes.
to connect with emotionally, and we connect better with stories.
Yes. 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 And I get you. I understand the necessity of a PowerPoint. It would be like the story cards. It's
Mhm.
that structure. We need that structure, and everyone needs a structure to learn.
Yeah.
So it is useful to have a PowerPoint presentation. The problem is that um, many presenters abuse the PowerPoint or are not clear on how is the best way to use it as a teaching method. And there comes the problem. And so they're showing 1,000 slides with tons of writing, and sometimes they are reading what is written, or sometimes, what is worse, there's a ton of writing and they are saying something different than what the slide says, and the audience is so confused, and the brain is saying, nope, I don't understand, nope, 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 must be me, I'm stupid, I'm feeling awful now, I'm switching off. And when you make people feel that way,
Mhm.
it's very disempowering. So your PowerPoint is disempowering people, and that's the worst chemical that you can send off.
Right.
That, like, ugh. So what you want to send is dopamine, endorphin,
Mhm.
make people feel good, make people feel that they understand that, yep, I get this, I know this, yeah, that slide is green, I know green, yep, and it's got one word, green, oh yes, I understand. And the next slide maybe is nothing and is a story, and then the next slide is something, one image.
Mhm.
The simpler, the better. And of
Yeah.
course, Peggy is excellent at making everything simple and better.
Well, thank you. We try. We try.
Yeah, goodness me, you are. Huge admiration for Peggy. Everyone listening or watching or however you are enjoying this podcast, you are amazing because you follow this podcast, because you follow Peggy. Goodness me, this is a woman I admire and I respect so much, and I mean it. It took me 2 years to jump on your podcast. I was super busy, but it was always at the back of my mind. And one of my students, Felicia, is my neighbor,
Yeah.
and we go on walks along the beach or on along the woods, and we talk about Peggy. Oh, when am I gonna be at Peggy's podcast to tell my stories? Says Felicia, and she will be very soon. So
Good.
um, Peggy is someone that gets things done. She sustained this podcast all these years. So if you can sustain something and repeat it as a simple system for many years, then you're great. And if you can tell simple short stories for many, many years, then you got a system. It's simple. And you know, if you want to tell stories to your kids, your family,
Mhm.
when the stories are short and simple, they want to hear them again and again and again. I've
Mhm.
seen it with my nephews. My sister in law is a great storyteller, and I heard her stories 1,000 times. And we are sitting around the table, and suddenly Leo, one of my nephews, says, "Oh, Mum, tell that story." And the kids, they put the forks down, and their jaws drop, and they're like that, listening to the story and moving their heads up and down. And they heard that story 1,000 times. So when you have one thing that you know how to tell, one short story you know how to tell, and you repeat it, repeat it, repeat it, your confidence will go up.
Yeah.
Your confidence will increase. And guess what? You tell that story to your kids, you can also tell it in a presentation.
Mhm.
And
Yep.
it can be a business presentation. You know, never mind your origin story. That takes a big process.
Mhm.
Uh, but just tell short, snappy stories of whatever.
Mhm.
And that's gonna give you confidence. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna connect with people. Test them. Test them with your family. Test them with people. And then you put them in your lovely PowerPoint.
What prevents people, from sharing stories? Like what, because not everybody wants to, I guess, engage in it or,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, because it's hard. It can be hard, but how does people, what prevents them, I guess?
Well, is I'm gonna take up the time of the listener.
Mm.
Or who is going to want to listen to this story, like, oh no, a long boring story. You feel that people just want the tips, the knowledge, and the story is taking up time. That is the main thing.
Mhm.
And then the next thing is the lack of practice, lack of confidence in telling the story, knowing the sequence of actions and the punchline. Maybe yeah, it's lack of knowledge of what is the story structure.
Mhm.
And I love teaching a very, very simple story structure because many people teach the hero's journey
Mhm.
by Campbell, and I studied that. I'm a teacher and I'm a teacher trainer, and I studied literature from the whole of the world, uh, backwards and forwards, and I'm very familiar with that. The problem with that is that people then create a whole novel because the hero's journey is a whole novel, and so they're including tons of stories in there, and that takes forever to tell. Whereas
Mhm.
when you understand what is a scene and what is a short story,
Mhm.
the setting, action, action, interruption, and then punchline. That's it. That is the story. And it's a little scene where people lean in. It's like,
Mhm.
wow, I see it. Oh, that happened. Ha ha ha. Or, oh, aha.
Mhm.
That's it. You don't need to tell more. It's very, very simple. And I just told you the framework, um, which is setting, action, action, interruption. If you want to know how to apply it, follow me because I teach that on my social media and I teach that
Mhm.
on my master classes. Um, some of my master classes are for free, so if you just want to test them out, and some of them are paid,
Mhm.
depends on the content and my mood.
Of course.
Of course, yeah. Um, uh, but it's very, very simple. So when you have that simplicity, it gives you more confidence. So I would say practice. Listen to great storytellers and write down the little stories that you like and then practice telling them. As soon as you got that structure and you're telling the story and someone listens, you repeat that and then that gives you confidence. Because I tell you, it's in my story. As soon as I learned how to tell a short story and I saw that people were
Mhm.
leaning in,
Mhm.
I felt so confident. I felt, wow, this is it.
Mhm.
I gotta tell more stories. This is the secret. It was so exciting. I felt super confident.
Mhm.
And then I started applying more stories. But it is, we all fall into the trap of being too logical,
Mhm.
teaching too much,
Yeah.
preaching too much. We all,
Yeah.
I do too. And it's like, oh, why did you do that, Natalia? You need to ask for permission when people, not everyone wants to learn your thing. So
Right.
the story entices and it makes people then ask, oh, and so tell me more. And then you can teach. The story is a metaphor for a path and is an example, a real life example of steps that people can take
Mhm.
to solve something. Like,
Yeah.
for example, Peggy, you might see my desk, which now is sort of tidy, but before I met you, for example, you might see my desk and it's like, Natalia, that is a mess. That's why your mind is a mess and your business is a mess. This is what you got to do. You do this, this, and that. And I'm like, I'm not ready to listen to what I got to do. So if you tell me a story right before that, oh, you know what, Natalia? My desk was right. It was just like that. And I actually wasn't even a desk. It was my dining table.
Mhm.
No one could sit in it. It was all filled with papers, and 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 I it was impacting my whole life because we were not having dinner together with the kids. We were all eating in separate places, and we lacked connection. I was arguing with the family, and as soon as I tidied up my desk, actually my dining table, and I did this. I put these papers here, these other papers, da da da, and here you're showing me the method through the story. And now we eat together, the business is smooth, and I will be leaning in and I will be, oh, Peggy, and so how did you do that? What are the 3 steps? Teach me.
Mhm.
I want to do that too. And then I'm eager to learn. You
Yeah.
entice them first with the story.
Well, and I'm the thing I came away with is like nobody really likes being told what to do. Yeah.
No, I hate it.
And so when they're introducing a story that's like something that happened to you and how you changed something, it kind of brings in a smooth you're not really saying, "Here, you have to do this," but this is what works for me. This is what
Yeah,
worked. Or, you know what? Hey, my neighbor over here did this. Like they had something similar and they did this process and it worked for them. You're not
yeah,
saying you have to do it. You're just suggesting through
Yay!
story.
Ah, I love that. Yeah, that's exactly it.
Hey,
That's what we do.
where can people find out more about you? You had mentioned just a little bit ago, hey, follow me on social. I might have some, classes, and I believe you actually have a story retreat coming up here in the US in Arizona. So can you just like tell listeners like where they can find out more about you?
Well, first thing to do is go to my website, natalianutting.com. That is spelled Natalia like Natalie, but ending with an A, and followed by nutting, Nutting.com, natalianutting.com. There you will find everything that I'm doing, the story retreat, the 3 ways to work with me, either intensive one-on-one,
Mhm.
either 3 months inside Captivate, way, which is what Peggy did,
Yes.
or 1 year one-on-one with me. And the fourth way, which is the story retreat, I'm going to tell you in a second. So first thing to do is natalianutting.com. Second thing to do is follow me on Facebook. I hang around on Facebook all the time. I'm also on Instagram, but it's my platform is Facebook. So I'm Natalia Nutting Storyteller on Facebook. So if you go to facebook.com/Natalia Nutting Storyteller, you'll find me. If you resonated with this episode, shoot me a message and say, hey, I heard you at Peggy's podcast, and yeah, I'll treat you VIP, baby. We'll have a lovely conversation.
Yeah.
And I'm all the time doing short masterclasses. Um, and this year, I'm hosting an in person storytelling retreat in Arizona, in Scottsdale, in the desert. I love nature. Don't we love
Yes.
nature?
Yes.
Around the red rocks, overlooking the mountain and the sunsets of Arizona, in this beautiful mansion that I rented to have an immersive, intensive, in-person retreat with 15 people only, where I train you intensively on your story, on your voice, the quality of your voice,
Mhm.
and your presence, so that people look up at you and respect you before you even say a word.
Nice.
And I love experiences like this. I grew up in a family of entrepreneurs. I grew up in a restaurant. um, I love creating experiences for people and feeding people. So all the food is included, and I also grew up in hospitality. So the accommodation is included, so that you feel super comfortable. There's nothing to worry.
Mhm.
You just need to get there, and there I train you in what is possibly one of the most uncomfortable things for people, which is public speaking
Mhm.
and storytelling. So I want you feeling so good in that safe space, so that then you can do the uncomfortable, and I turn you in 4 days into the most powerful speaker the world has ever seen or heard. And this is happening December 9th to the 12th in Scottsdale, Arizona. By the time you listen to this podcast, there might not be any more spots
Right,
left, but
right.
at least you know. And if there is one spot left, you're very, very lucky. And you will see how to register for that inside my website, natalianutting.com.
Nice, nice. I will put the link to your Facebook and your website in the show notes so people can easily grab that if they haven't already gotten there while we're talking. So I
While we're talking, yeah.
know. Oh, this has been so wonderful to catch up with you and just hear, that you're still continuing on and helping people share their stories in a most powerful way. So as we wrap up today, do you have a thought or a quote that you would like to leave the listeners with?
It might be cheesy, but never give up.
Mhm. Yeah.
Never give up. Never give up. Just continue. Continue and do one thing. And even when you're bored, continue doing that one thing.
Mhm.
Develop a system out of something you're good at, because then you're going to be the stuff of tales
Yeah.
for the future.
Yes. Yes. Don't give up, just consistently, keep learning keep sharing. We all, we can always tweak something, right? We know
Yeah.
that. We know a story from front to back sometimes, and we can still screw it up in the middle, or we forget a couple parts of maybe the punchline, you know, but we can do it again. But we do it again. No, don't give up. You just got to keep going because it's like, oh, even those can turn into good stories. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, Peggy, you're amazing. I
uh,
love you so much.
oh, same
Thank you.
here. I'm so glad you came on my podcast. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.